Okay, now I'm going to show you Greco-Roman clinch control standing grappling, whichever you want to call it. But what we have to remember is this is not just Greco-Roman, this is MMA, so there is going to be punches allowed. Alright? Now, my main aim when I grab Lee in a clinch is to have double underhooks, which is both hands underneath and then clinched around the back of his lower back stroke waist for a takedown. But in a fight, it's very rare that that's going to happen straight away, because as a fighter, you're only as good as the guy that you're fighting against. Now, if he knows everything that you know, we're now normally going to end up in what's called a 1 under, 1 over position. Now, the 1 under, 1 over. The 1 under is underneath the armpit and hand around the waist. The 1 over is over the top and a hold of the tricep. Now, my head now is going to be buried into the side of Lee's head, so that this arm that's free on Lee, he can't strike me in the face. He can only strike me in the back of the head, which is obviously illegal. Alright? So now I've got a hold of Lee's tricep. Now, Lee wants to be able to strike me with his hand because he can't hit me in the back of the head, an illegal blow, so he needs to get that one free. Now, if I've got a hold of the tricep and Lee tries to pull away, I've got control of it. If I grab a hold of him around the forearm stroke wrist and Lee pulls off, he's going to pull off and then create a gap for him to strike. So every time I get a 1 under, 1 over, the 1 over should always be on the tricep and a hold pretty tight. Now, the hand, which is the 1 under, goes around Lee's waist. Now, if Lee tries to pull away, I can bring him back and use that as a controlling position to hold him here. Now, you may have seen people do the underhook this way on. Now, this is not the safest form of underhook when it comes to mixed martial arts. It might be okay for judo, it might be okay for Greco-Roman, but for mixed martial arts, it's actually quite dangerous. Because if Lee steps back now, he creates a gap to the side, exposing my face so he can hit me. So whenever you've got a hold of someone, grab a hold of the waist, bring it into you, and hold the tricep. Now, we're going to do what's called a pummel. Now, the pummel can be a technique exercise and also a warm-up exercise. Now, this can be used in a technique because if I go for a pummel on Lee, Lee obviously knows what I'm going to do, so he does exactly the same as me but on the opposite side. Now, whatever you can do to Lee, as in elbow, strike, he can obviously do it to you because you're equal. So when I do the pummel, I want to be chest to chest. I'm going to go backhand across the bicep, underneath, I'm going to slide around, and that's what I'm aiming for, to get the double underhook. But obviously Lee knows this, so he's going to do it on the opposite side. So I'm going to go backhand, underneath, our head switches sides. Now Lee's got me on the tricep on this side, I have it on the opposite side. We're going to go again, pummel, and we come back to the position we were in. Now, the reason we can do this as a warm-up exercise is we can just slowly, chest to chest, and as we get more comfortable with the move, we can start picking up the speed. Now this is called a pummel. Now I've seen a lot of people doing this, and when they start to get into the swinging motion, they start to pull away from the chest, and they're doing this. Alright, again, it's more of a bad habit than anything else, so try not to pull your chest away, hence what we just spoke about the strikes. But this is called the pummel, and this is a great practice exercise for working the clinch. Alright, when we're doing a pummel position, it's not just the head movement and the hand movement, alright, it's also the position of our feet. Alright, now, there's a rule of thumb. If I'm standing striking with somebody, I'm going to have one foot in front of the other. Obviously in a fight stance, whether you're orthodox or left-handed. As soon as I throw my punches, Lee comes and grabs me in a clinch, I'm no longer going to stand in this position because my balance will be way off and I'll be easily thrown over or taken down to the ground. So what I need to do is stand here, then as soon as we clinch, I stand with one foot side by side so that I'm now on a balanced, even keel. Then, Once I get someone up against the cage, up against the wall, I then go from a side-to-side position back to my fight position. So, rule of thumb, when you're not fighting in a clinch position and you're fighting outside of each other, we're in a fight stance. When we fight and we clinch, our legs go side to side, and then when we push them against the wall, my leg then goes back into a fight position between the legs. So that is a rule of thumb. So, when I come in a clinch position, I want to be 1 foot side by side to the other foot, which is basically a mirror image of what Lee's doing to me now. Now we're both at an equal pegging. Now, I'm slightly taller than Lee, so Lee has a slight advantage because his centre of gravity will be slightly lower than what mine will be. So I need to drop my centre of gravity. Okay? Now, what is your centre of gravity? Everyone's centre of gravity is approximately half the body, which is roughly around the waist is. Now, centre of gravity always goes from ceiling to floor. Alright? So no matter what position you're in, it's always from ceiling to floor. So half my height is roughly around my waist, half Lee's height is roughly around his waist. So as you can see, his centre of gravity is now below mine. So I want to drop my centre of gravity by just bending my legs and keeping my back straight. Now that means my centre of gravity is now being pushed down even further into the ground. So this is the position I now need to be. I don't want to be standing tall, I want to be down, so my centre of gravity is further down, then I want to pummel in and I want to go for a double underhook. Okay, now before I show you a takedown with the double underhook, I want to show you how important it is to have 1 foot alongside the other foot in a square stance when you're in a clinch work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stand wrongly. I'm going to stand with 1 foot in front of the other. Lee's going to stand correctly and Lee is actually going to throw me around, and I'm going to stand as strong as I can. As strong as I can for Lee not to move me about. Okay? We will just use a small area, so we're not actually going to get dragged all over the place, but it will give you a guideline of how weak my position is. So, when you're ready, Lee, start throwing around. And I am purposely, I'm purposely trying to keep my balance. I'm totally off balance there, totally off balance. So now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to stand correctly, I'm going to drop my centre of gravity, then I'm going to ask Lee to try and throw me around. So when you're ready, Lee, off you go. As you can see, a lot stronger, a lot more perfect. Now, it's not as easy as just to stand in one spot when you're doing this, so you have to know when to pop your hips out, when to put your hips back in, when to move to the side, when to move backward, when to move forward. Now, I'm only as good as what Lee is. So if Lee doesn't know this position, I should take control every time that we're in a clinch position.